For too long, you've been told that to control yourself, you need brutal willpower. But fighting an emotion is like punching water. It doesn't work. What if I told you that the entire idea of self-control you've been taught is dead wrong? You've been sold a lie. The lie is that self-control is a battle of suppression. You stand there swearing you won't check your phone, you won't eat the sugar, you won't send the angry email. And for a moment, you win. But then the dam breaks. The pent-up frustration or desire crashes over you, and you find yourself doing the very thing you swore you wouldn't. Then comes the self-hatred, the shame, and the crushing thought, I must be weak. I just don't have enough willpower. This is a failure of strategy, not a failure of character. The truth is, true sustainable self-control, the kind that gives you unshakable inner peace, isn't about fighting the emotion or suppressing the feeling. It's about a 3-second, learnable mental skill that allows you to instantly choose not to care about the things that don't matter in the most powerful, healthy way possible. This is the Stoic Superpower. It's the ability to feel the trigger, the insult, the rejection, the frustration, and simply decide, I will not be controlled by this. We don't try to stop the first feeling. We intercept the second thought, the one that turns a neutral event into emotional chaos. If you're tired of being manipulated by your phone, your boss, or just a bad memory from 5 years ago, stick with me. We are going to install the mental firewall that gives you complete, unshakable control over your inner life. Let's start with the flash of heat in your chest when you get a message that completely misunderstands you, or worse, outright attacks you. You're in a spiral, a total, out-of-control, mental and emotional freefall. And in that moment, what is your most desperate wish? It's not $1 million. It's not a new career. It's the simple, beautiful, impossible feeling of, I wish I just didn't care. That desire is a craving for self-control. But when you think of self-control, what do you picture? You picture standing next to a table full of donuts, clenching your fists, sweating, using sheer brutal willpower to stop yourself. You picture white-knuckle suppression, a battle you often lose, followed by a tidal wave of guilt. I'm here to tell you that this entire model is fundamentally wrong. Self-control, the kind that gives you an unshakable inner peace, is not about suppressing your emotions. It's not about becoming a robot. It's not even about willpower. It is a learnable skill, a superpower, that allows you to choose your emotional state, regardless of the chaos in the world. Think about that for a second. What if you could literally not care about the things that don't serve you in the healthiest and most powerful way possible? For too long, we've been taught that emotional self-control is about fighting. Fighting your fear, fighting your anger, fighting your desire. The Stoic insight is that the fight is already lost before it begins. The real secret is choosing which thoughts you feed. It's about catching the tiny, almost invisible moment where an impression from the world enters your mind, and you slap a judgment onto it. That judgment is the match that lights the fire of rage, anxiety, or despair. And when you learn to unhook your reaction from the stimulus, to separate the event from your interpretation of the event, everything changes. If you feel overwhelmed, anxious, or perpetually angry, I can tell you exactly why. It's because you are trying to pilot a plane you are not the pilot of. The entire source of human suffering, according to Stoic thinkers like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, boils down to this single error: fighting things that are not up to us. Think about the sheer exhausting cost of fighting uncontrollable things. You spend hours replaying a conversation in your head, trying to change what someone said to you in the past. The cost here is anxiety and regret. You check the stock market every hour, trying to force the price of a stock to go up. The cost here is paralysis and panic. You scream at your spouse because you are trying to control something you don't like about them. The cost here is rage and relationship damage. This goes beyond wasted energy. This is an act of self-sabotage that drains your mental resources and leaves you powerless. So, let's draw the line. We make this our foundation. What are the things we can control? It's a much smaller list than you think, but it is infinitely more powerful. It comes down to 4 core things. First, your effort and intention. You control how hard you study, how many times you work to sell somebody on something, and the quality of the work you put out. You control your commitment to your own improvement. Second, your reaction. This is the core Stoic superpower. You control the meaning you assign to an event, the first word out of your mouth after a trigger, and the action you take in response to a difficulty. Third, your values and principles. You control what kind of person you decide to be today. Are you honest? Are you diligent? Are you kind? That is a choice you make, regardless of the circumstances. Fourth, your attention and interpretation. You decide what you look at, what you read, what you listen to, and crucially, how you translate an external event into an internal reality. A delayed flight can be interpreted as, "The universe is against me," which is out of your control, or "This is an opportunity to do something I've been putting off," which is a perspective completely in your control. So ask yourself, what isn't in your control? This is the big one. This is where you are currently dumping your entire reservoir of mental energy. First, outcomes and results. You can work harder than anyone, and your business can still fail due to a market crash. You can nail an interview, and the company can still hire the CEO's nephew. Your job is to focus solely on the process, not the prize. Second, other people's opinions and behavior. No matter how logical you are, you cannot make your colleague like you. You cannot make a paid critic stop criticizing. The moment you seek validation or try to correct a stranger's misunderstanding, you have given them all your power. Third, the initial feeling or fear response. When a car swerves, your heart will race. That is a biological function. When you stand up to give a speech, a shot of adrenaline will hit you. You don't control the initial feeling, but you do control your response to it. Fourth, the past. You cannot unsend the stupid email. You cannot undo the mistake. Replaying the past is a guaranteed recipe for shame and self-hatred. Your control is only over your next action. Let's ground this with a concrete example. Consider a job rejection. The uncontrollable focus, which is the path to suffering, sounds like this. "I can't believe they rejected me. It's so unfair. They clearly didn't understand my skills. What are they thinking? Now I'm going to struggle financially. I need to email them and argue my case." The result here is wasted time, rage, self-doubt, and 0 new job prospects. The controllable focus, which is the path to power, sounds like this. "Okay, the outcome is set. I cannot change their decision. I can, however, control my reaction. What did I learn from the interview? I can control my effort and immediately apply to 5 more jobs and spend an hour improving my resume. I can control my interpretation and choose to see this as a necessary redirection. The result here is clarity, immediate action, and forward momentum. Consider another example. Someone's judgment. The uncontrollable focus sounds like this. Did you see what they posted about me? I have to respond. I need to defend myself. They have to know I'm right. I can't let them get away with this. The result is giving the troll your time and energy, elevating their platform, and compromising your own peace. The controllable focus sounds like this. Their opinion is not my reality. I cannot control what they think or say. I can control whether or not I pay attention to it. I can control my values and choose to behave with dignity and silence. I'll spend the time I save on my work, which is something I can control. The result is invulnerability, focus, and preserved energy. The revelation is simple, but life-changing. When you truly separate these two lists, the mental load drops immediately. When you stop carrying the weight of the universe on your shoulders, a universe you cannot lift, you free up all that energy to focus on the tiny but infinitely powerful things you can control. This is the foundation. Now, let's get into the mechanism. How do you actually execute this separation in the moment of crisis? The moment of true self-control is a microscopic process that happens inside your mind. It is the moment between the stimulus, the external event, and the response, your action. Most people have a 0-second gap. Stimulus hits, reaction fires. It's pure instinct, pure emotion, pure chaos. The Stoic Superpower is about building an entirely new 3-part firewall in that gap. This is the mechanism you must practice daily. We all know the concept of the 6-second rule. Studies show that intense emotion, like rage, takes about 6 seconds for the chemical cocktail in your brain to start dissipating. If you can bridge that gap, you can regain control. But how do you actually widen that gap when your blood is boiling? It starts with an interruption technique. You need a mental circuit breaker that you can apply immediately after the stimulus. Here are 3 simple, practical circuit breakers. First is the physical freeze. When the bad email hits, you are not allowed to touch the keyboard. Physically remove your hands, put them under your thighs. Feel the pressure. This simple physical action interrupts the reflex loop. Second is something we call the word anchor. Pick a word. When the trigger happens, mentally shout that word. Don't think about the trigger. Just focus on the sound and meaning of your anchor word. This shifts your attention away from the external event and onto your internal state. Third is the simple breath. Don't try to meditate. Don't try to do a fancy breathing technique. Just take one slow, deep, intentional breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. That's it. That one breath takes about 4 to 5 seconds and is a guaranteed mechanism to drop your heart rate and interrupt the hot mind takeover. The goal of part 1 is not to solve the problem. The goal is simply to buy time so you can execute part 2. The most powerful act of self-control is simply doing nothing for 6 seconds. When an event happens, it creates an impression on your mind. Examples of impressions include, "My boss said my report was sloppy," or "My friend didn't invite me out tonight," or even, "It is raining outside." These impressions are automatic. They are sensory data. You cannot stop them. The problem is that you almost immediately and often subconsciously add a judgment to that impression. The impression is the fact. The judgment is the story you tell yourself about the fact. The judgments look like this. "My boss thinks I'm incompetent and my career is over." Or, "My friend must hate me and I'm clearly being left out." Or, "It is raining, so my day is ruined and I hate this place." See the difference? The impression is uncontrollable, but neutral. The judgment is controllable, and it is the sole source of your suffering. The core move of Stoic self-control is to separate the two. When you successfully execute part 1, the pause, you create the space to ask this single powerful question. What is the bare, non-emotional fact here? And what have I added to it? Let's practice this internal dialogue. In the example of a modern personal attack, the stimulus is, "A stranger on social media called me a failure." The internal dialogue for separation is, "That's the impression." The fact is, a person I don't know typed words into a box on the internet. The judgment I'm adding is, "I must be a failure, and my reputation is ruined." The judgment is a story. I can choose to delete that story. For a delayed flight, the stimulus or impression is, "The flight is delayed by 4 hours." The internal dialogue is, the fact is that an airline has changed its schedule. The judgment I'm adding is, this is an injustice. My entire trip is ruined. I can choose to delete that story and rewrite a new one. This is an unexpected opening of 4 hours to get things done. Self-control is not about controlling the impression. It's about ruthlessly eliminating the unnecessary judgment. If you strip away the judgment, all that is left is a neutral, external event that requires a rational, intentional response. Once you've separated the impression from the judgment, you are in a state of calm, rational clarity. The fire is out. Now you can act, but you need a compass. That compass is your values. We often think of self-control as denial. I won't eat that donut. I won't yell at that person. I won't stop working. But Stoic self-control is alignment. I choose to act in accordance with my highest self. Self-control isn't about avoiding a negative. It's about choosing a positive. You are not saying, I must deny this feeling. You are saying, I choose to align my response with the person I want to be. This is the final question you ask yourself in the gap. If I were the most controlled, most powerful, most effective version of myself, what would my next action be? If your value is dignity, then the most effective version of you ignores the online attack and keeps working. If your value is discipline, then the most effective version of you calmly closes the email and focuses on the task you planned for the next hour. If your value is love or patience, then the most effective version of you calmly turns to your spouse, takes a deep breath, and says, let's talk about this calmly, instead of yelling. Self-control is not a denial of a feeling. It is an affirmation of your character. You are redirecting your emotional energy away from the uncontrollable external event and toward your controllable internal commitment to your best self. This is the three-part mechanism. Pause, separate, redirect. It is a loop you run thousands of times until it becomes your new default reaction. Yet even with all this, if you're not careful, things can still fall apart. Remember that. When your self-control fails, you can recover. Most people fail because they are aiming for the wrong target and using the wrong tools. Let's clear up the 4 biggest myths that kill self-control efforts. The biggest, most destructive myth is that the goal of self-control is to never feel an emotion you don't want to feel or to never make a mistake. This is a setup for guaranteed failure. When you lose your temper, you immediately think, I am a failure at self-control. When you break your diet, you think, I am a weak person. This all-or-nothing mindset is a trap. The reality check is that self-control is not a destination. It's about being present. A musician doesn't quit after hitting a wrong note. They just keep practicing. A Stoic doesn't quit after an angry outburst. They use the outburst as data for the next attempt. The goal is simply to do better the next time. The second myth is that you must suppress your emotions. The Stoics are often, and wrongly, accused of being cold, emotionless robots. People think self-control means shoving anger, grief, or fear into a box and sitting on the lid. This won't work. When you suppress an emotion, you don't kill it. You just bottle it. And bottled emotions always explode later, often over something trivial, or they turn inward as chronic anxiety and stress. The solution here is to change your perspective. You are not trying to stop the initial impression, the first feeling. You are simply choosing not to empower it with your judgment. Grief is a natural part of loss. You don't suppress grief. You accept that you cannot control the loss, you allow the feeling, and then you redirect your action to a value, like honor the memory of the person, or continue living a good life. Anger is a natural alarm bell. You don't suppress the alarm, You check what it's attached to, confirm it's usually just your ego, and then you let the sound fade. This brings us to our third myth: all or nothing discipline attempts. Think of the person who decides, starting Monday, I'm going to work out for 2 hours a day, quit all sugar, meditate for an hour, and never look at social media. Within 3 days, they've failed on at least one count, which triggers them to quit everything. Sustainable self-control is a low-intensity, high-frequency activity. You need to focus on a few high-leverage micro-habits. For example, instead of never get angry, focus only on the pause technique from the mechanism section for 1 week. Just that. Can you successfully pause for 6 seconds after every single trigger? When that becomes automatic, move on to the next step. Self-control is built one small, successful block at a time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. The fourth myth is simply overemphasizing mistakes. We are our own harshest critics. One bad email response, one lazy afternoon, one shouted word, and the inner voice says, "You'll never change. This is who you are." This thought is the most powerful self-fulfilling prophecy you can ever make. It is your mind actively sabotaging your future progress. The reality is that you must normalize the struggle. Even Marcus Aurelius, arguably the greatest example of a Stoic leader, had to constantly remind himself in his private journals, the Meditations, to do better. He was writing down his own personal pep talk. He was reminding himself, "Get up and do your work, man. Stop complaining about the world. Remember what you control. This struggle is the practice. You are not judged by the times you fall down. You are defined by the number of times you get back up and try again." Embrace the slip-ups as part of the learning curve, because that is exactly what they are. Now, all this theory is nice, but without practice, it's just intellectual vanity. That's why we need a daily training regimen to put this all into practice. The key is non-judgmental observation. We aren't trying to change anything yet. We are just becoming a scientific observer of our own mind. Think of it less as homework and more as an engaging, high-stakes game. Here are 3 simple, high-leverage tools you can use this week. Your first assignment is to simply figure out where your control leaks are. You can't fix a hole until you find it. So carry a small notepad around, or use the Notes app on your phone, or simply keep a running mental tally. The goal is to notice, not to fix, your outbursts. Every time you feel that flash of anger, anxiety, or overwhelming irritation, the signal that you've lost control, stop and label it. The audit entry has 4 parts. First is the trigger. Be brief and factual, like, "Boss sent a demanding email at 6 p.m. Second is the initial loss of control. What did you feel or think? For example, felt a huge surge of resentment. Thought, "I can't believe this. They have no respect for my time." Third is the controllable action taken. What did you do next? For example, replied instantly with a snarky tone. And fourth is the correction note. What should you have done? For example, should have put the phone down for 10 minutes and waited until morning. The magic of the reaction audit is that it immediately creates the pause, part 1, of the mechanism. The moment you stop to audit your reaction, you've already created a gap between the stimulus and your response. You are turning your emotional chaos into quantifiable data, which robs it of its power. Do this for a week. You will be shocked at how predictable your triggers are. Most of the time, when you lose self-control, it's because your ego has been bruised, not because your self has been genuinely harmed. Your ego is the part of you that craves validation, reputation, and being right. Your self is the part of you that aligns with your highest values, such as integrity, diligence, and kindness. So, right before you respond to the trigger, the text, the comment, the slight, ask yourself this 2-part question. Is this me or my ego? If I respond this way, am I serving my temporary ego or my timeless values? Here are some examples of the internal conversation. When responding to a critic, ask, if I spend 30 minutes writing a defensive post, am I serving my ego, proving I'm right, or my value, diligence to my main work? When losing patience with a child or partner, ask, if I snap at them now, am I serving my ego, the need to be in control, or my value of showing love? The values check immediately provides the redirect. It reframes the moment from a crisis into a test of character. You get to choose your character. This simple check gives you a powerful reason not to lose control, which is far more motivating than just trying to stop yourself. To further help yourself with this, consider using an impression journal. How to do it? Before bed, take 5 minutes and write down the 3 most stressful or irritating events of the day. For each event, use this 2-column method. In the first column, write the bare impression or the fact. In the second column, write the judgment I added or the fiction. For example, the fact might be, my flight was delayed 3 hours. The fiction you added was, this is intolerable. My whole trip is ruined. I am powerless. Another example. The fact is, my colleague ignored my suggestion. The fiction is, they hate me. They think I'm worthless. I will never get ahead. A final example. The fact is, I ate a piece of cake I didn't plan to eat. The fiction is, I have 0 discipline. I am a failure. My diet is over. By the time you finish filling out the fiction column, the power of those stressful events is gone. You realize that the problem was never the impression, the fact, but the fiction you layered on top of it. The impression journal is a cognitive behavioral training exercise. You are teaching your brain to see the gap between fact and fiction. Over time, your brain will start doing this automatically in the moment, and you will find yourself saying, that's just the impression. I don't need the judgment. Frame this entire process as a game, not as homework. You are the protagonist on a quest for mental freedom. Every time you successfully execute a pause, a check, or an audit, you gain experience points in your own mind. Make it light, make it fun, and make it daily. What makes this so useful and so important is that we are no longer just dealing with the natural chaos of life. We are living in a world literally engineered to hijack your attention and manipulate your emotions. In the time of Marcus Aurelius, the greatest challenge to self-control was an overly demanding emperor or a battle. Difficult, yes, but external and slow. Today, your greatest threat is an infinite stream of outrage. Social media, 24/7 news cycles, and partisan pundits are not designed to inform you. They are designed to provoke you. They survive on your emotional reaction. If you are not angry, anxious, or fearful, you are not clicking and you are not watching. Think of it. The constant comparison culture, the moral outrage, the endless stream of problems you can't possibly solve. These are all designed to push you out of the small circle of what you can control. They are actively trying to rob you of your self-control. When you lose your temper online or get paralyzed by fear from the news, you are not fighting back. You are fulfilling the business model. The platforms you use are powered by algorithms that have a PhD in your worst patterns. They know exactly which tone, which headline, and which photo will trigger that flash of outrage or anxiety in your chest. They don't want you to take a pause. They don't want you to separate your impression from your judgment. They want a 0-second gap between stimulus and your panicked, profitable click. To practice self-control in this environment is an act of defiance. It's the ultimate form of rebellion against the digital age. You are saying, my attention is mine, and you cannot have it. Social media doesn't just provoke anger, It destroys your sense of personal progress through comparison. You see the highlight reel, the vacation photos, the successful launch, and your mind instantly crafts the judgment. I am not doing enough. I am behind. My life is small. This is a direct attack on your ability to find contentment and focus on your own controllable effort. It tries to force you into caring about other people's outcomes, which are uncontrollable, rather than your own process, which is controllable. The Stoic power of self-control is the antidote. When you practice the pause, separate, and redirect mechanism, you become effective and intentional, not just chill. You are not immune to the world's problems, but you are immune to being controlled by them. You free up the vast mental energy you are wasting on outrage to actually focus on solving the few problems you can impact. Self-control is not about being a peaceful monk. It's about becoming a powerful agent of change in your own life and the world around you by refusing to be played by the algorithms of chaos. We started this discussion with the desire to not care in a healthy way. I hope you now see that this is possible, not through apathy, but through a deeply intentional, practiced form of self-control. What is the real power here? It's not about controlling the world. It's not about controlling other people. It's not even about controlling your first feelings. The real power is this: the power to not be controlled by anything outside of yourself. Think of the difference between a ship tossed violently by a storm and a submarine traveling silently, intentionally, and on course deep beneath the choppy surface. The storm is still raging above, but the submarine is immune. That submarine, on course and unbothered, is your mind when it is anchored to the things you control. You can't control the bad news. You can't control your boss's mood. You can't control your past. But you can control your effort. You can control your reaction. You can control your values. And when you control those three things, you possess the only power that truly matters. Let me leave you with one memorable line, a quote often attributed to the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. No man is free who is not master of himself. Your freedom isn't found in a bigger bank account or a better job. Your freedom is found in the 6-second gap between stimulus and your intentional response. Your freedom is found in separating the bare impression from the unnecessary judgment. Your freedom is found in choosing your highest value over your lowest impulse. So let's start with one small action you can take today. Don't try to change your life overnight. Do not try to become the perfectly controlled Stoic. Instead, let's go back to the single most important tool, the pause. Your action for today, for this hour, is simply this. The next time you feel a flash of anger, anxiety, or resentment, stop everything. Do not speak. Do not type. Do not react. Simply take one slow, intentional breath. That's it. One breath. One single moment of conscious interruption. That breath is your first act of rebellion. It is the first widening of the gap. It is the beginning of your superpower. Start now. The world is waiting to provoke you. Show it that you are the master of your own mind by doing this work today.